Hello, 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 and welcome to you all. I'm Amber. I'm the Client Service Director here at Thinkhouse, and I want to give you all a very warm welcome to our 7th edition of Youth Culture Uncovered.
Hello, and you're very welcome to today's podcast. It is, of course, the Irish marketing podcast powered by IMJ and Tinpot Productions. I'm Daryl from Tinpot, and what you just heard at the top there was how things started at the Youth Culture Uncovered conference, which took place in Thinkhouse HQ earlier this week in Dublin. So this annual event showcases and explores habits, behaviours and beliefs of young people ages around 16 to 35. There was a lot of different perspectives on the day, from industry, from content creators, from young people themselves, of course. So much so that we're going to return to this topic in a future podcast. Today, though, we're going to bring you some highlights from the event itself, from Beth Marchant, who's Senior Strategy Manager with System 1 in the UK.
We've kind of been using creators in the wrong way, and we've definitely been measuring the impact of creators in the wrong way.
And also, perhaps the most important perspective of all, from probably one of the youngest people there on the day, 16-year-old Thinkhouse intern, Robin.
I just doom scroll a lot. I decided to delete TikTok to try and cut down.
How's that going?
I've just switched to Instagram.
Firstly, though, I am in studio with Claire Hyland, who is head of the Youth Lab at Thinkhouse. Claire, before we dip into some of the highlights from the day itself, can you fill in some of the blanks about what Youth Culture Uncovered is all about?
Okay, well, I might just give some context in terms of Thinkhouse. So we're a full-service creative agency, but we're powered by youth culture. So our thinking is really informed in terms of listening to young people. So over 10 years ago, we established the Youth Lab, which is our insights and strategy division. And it is designed to essentially listen to young people, observe young people, and really understand what it's like to be young today, so that we can bring those learnings to our clients and help them essentially see around corners, show up relevant and resonate with young people. So when I say young, we typically talk about 16 to 35-year-olds. So since its inception, every year we have been asking that big question, what it's like to be young today, and taking a different lens on it. And this year we're looking at it through the lens of influence. So what is the new architecture of influence in a world where attention, algorithms and AI collide?
It's interesting that you use the phrase you listen to young people. So you're not talking about talking. Well, you obviously are talking to them, but the primary phrase you use is listen. Is there a reason for that?
Well, I think it's so important to be representative of young people. And I think young people understand the power of their voice, but they also need the invitation to participate or the platform to share their point of view. So we do provide that, and it's an always on thing in Thinkhouse, to be honest. Like, we're constantly listening to young people and I guess translating what they're saying to insights that would be beneficial to our clients, whether that's government bodies or organisations or indeed brands wanting to understand, like, how can I show up to be relevant to young people today?
And what various forms does listening take? So is it social listening? You're interviewing people. Like what are the variety of ways you're trying to connect with young people?
Yeah, it's a real mix. It's everything from organising moments to listen in terms of, say, what would typically be seen as a traditional focus groups. It's going to the places and spaces that young people are, and that can be both offline and online. So going into universities, going into bars, going into young people's homes that they're getting ready to go out. And critically, I guess, listening online. So tracking to see sentiment, what's conversations, following certain people, looking at the comments underneath. And oftentimes we engage on social platforms.
The 16 to 35, that's quite a big cohort
It
in terms
is.
of there's big differences across those age groups between
Totally.
somebody who's 30 and maybe 16. Are you seeing much difference in terms of engagement around the types of media that they might engage with? In other words, is somebody who's 16 more likely to give you an honest opinion via a DM or WhatsApp? Are there different mediums that people have different comforts with, particularly where they're maybe talking about things that are perhaps, personal to them, if you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think definitely the younger you go, the more comfortable they are to have that digital interface, so sending that DM, sending that message. But when we do speak to young people face to face, and that might be on Teams or Zoom, as much as maybe bringing some young people in, and we actually every week have young people coming into the business on internships, and we always take the time to listen and hear what they have to say. But when we do it directly, we're very conscious of maybe doing friendship pairs. So we don't want to put young people, particularly teenagers, in scenarios where they feel embarrassed to say what they actually think. So in that context, it's more relevant to have a comfort of being there with your friend. And often the chat they have with each other where they contradict each other and go, no, you don't do that. Yeah, I do. Is, really where you get the nuggets.
So there was a lot of ground covered on Tuesday, a lot of information, a lot of different points of view and a lot of different perspectives. I don't think we can do it all justice in one podcast, but as we're talking today in relation to young people, what are the evolving trends in terms of young people's social media, where, let's face it, a good proportion of their time is now spent?
They are on social media, largely speaking, but that environment can be quite isolating, comparative. So you're looking at what someone else did, etc. And then I guess the impact in terms of just technology and social media, again, what we're seeing, particularly this year in the context of influence, is that they recognise that they're locked into almost this system. Like their phone is their life, like they need their phone to survive, But the flip side of this, and this really came out in our work this year, is that young people are seeking greater connection. So the power of the community, really looking for that authenticity in terms of human relationships. So it really is kind of a mixed bag between, feeling overwhelmed and disillusioned with actually feeling kind of determined and disruptive, and young people definitely saying to us, well, we're in this system, but we're in it together. So this huge sense of solidarity. And within that, it's like, well, if the system in itself is messed up, I still have to try and find happiness for myself. I still have to try and find success for myself. So, they're very conscious of that.
And I think some of those points really came across on the youth panels on the day, where they were talking about their perspectives on things. And one of the things that really struck me was when you spoke to one of the Thinkhouse interns called Robin about his particular social media usage. And I thought his answer encapsulated a lot of the problems that are affecting young people. And I say not just young people, but lots of people, if we're honest. So let's have a listen to that.
And then I want to ask if you just pass it over to Robin, who's 16. So Robin, we talked there about just the overwhelm, all this content. You're on social media. I know you were telling us, and we were looking at phone times and, from 6 hours to 10 hours a day. And how are you managing all that?
I've decided to delete TikTok because I've been on it the most 6 hours a day. And I just doom scroll a lot, and it's really affected what I do in a day, and it's made me quite lazy. I decided to delete TikTok to try and cut down, but...
How's that going?
I've just switched to Instagram.
So this is the challenge.
And of course, once Robin said that, then somebody else in the room piped up and said, actually, I did the exact same thing. I gave up TikTok, but then I just moved to Instagram. Just in relation to social media and the always on and the fact that information is so free flowing and so continuous, I gather that there's some sense that in some cases people are now choosing to disconnect, that it's overload. Yeah. Are we maybe seeing a situation where the likes of social media has topped out and people are starting to say, maybe we just need to step back from this? Are you seeing that in your research, where there is a certain amount of people, digital detoxing, so to speak?
Absolutely. And I'm seeing and hearing it, but also I know definitively that is the case. So social media effectively peaked in 2022. And there's data points, and actually the Financial Times were only reporting on it just in the last couple of weeks. But essentially since 2022, usage of social has actually gone down. Now, that's not to say that there's, still billions of people actively on social media. But I think the nuance there is to say that social media is at a point of reinvention where it's all media and no social. So really what you're seeing is just content, but the community and the social aspect isn't necessarily there. So less people actively posting themselves or commenting, but they are still consuming content.
Thank you very much, Claire. We are going to shift focus now to the subjects of that attention in a lot of cases, They are content creators. One of the key themes of the day was influence and how content creators are increasingly commanding it. Beth Marchant, Senior Strategy Manager with System 1, a creative effectiveness platform, was the keynote speaker who made the point, I thought, very eloquently. Let's have a listen to some of her presentation. Spoiler alert, stay tuned if you like Aardman animations.
I'm going to talk to you today about creative effectiveness in a creator economy, which is a very hot topic at the moment. You might have seen this article floating around LinkedIn a few months ago, how Unilever are going to work with 20 times more creators. This caused mass opinions on LinkedIn. Is this a good move? Is this a bad move? Why are Unilever doing this? And to this point, we've not really been able to know if this is a good move or a bad move, because the effectiveness research into creators, influencers, is still very much in its infancy. Until recently, we're now seeing the research kind of starting to catch up for creators so we can see what their impact really is and how they fit into the media mix. And this is a very horrible chart, but it's saying something very important, that we've kind of been using creators in the wrong way, and we've definitely been measuring the impact of creators in the wrong way. Creators, they found, are brand builders. They're not solely salespeople. When we look at the long-term ROI of these different media channels, we see that influencers are up there in long-term ROI with linear TV. And we also see that creators can have this huge lasting impact. Creators better at building future demand doing the long, and it's great when we start to see these different data sets saying the same thing. But this comes with a word of warning. This is something that the IPA found, and we have also seen in our data as well, and that is that the creative quality and the campaign success really varies when it comes to creator campaigns. So we've seen that creative quality varies almost twice as much for creator content versus your more like this style where it's a TVC that's been adapted for short form. So how do we, kind of stack the odds in our favor when it comes to, creative choices that we can make to, kind of reduce that variance to make sure that we land in the creator campaigns that work really hard, that build brand in the long term. So we did this piece of research with TikTok, global research, 8 markets. And as this is a talk about creative effectiveness in the creator economy, I'll start with what we found specifically on creators. And that is that creator assets hold more attention. They keep people watching for longer, which is, it makes sense, right? Creators are congruent with the reason people are on TikTok in the first place. They know how to entertain, they know how to keep their audience engaged, but we have to think about whose brand we're building here when we're working with creators. We have to entertain, but it has to be distinctive entertainment. I'm going to share an ad with you now. It was made by my friends at Aardman Animations, and they've made Wallace and Gromit. They're experts at character, place, story, creating these characters and entertaining, and they can do that on short form as well.
I absolutely love Casualty, but Mammy can't. She has to look away, isn't it? You don't like the hospital dramas where I can watch them, and I love their dramas. And
even though it's joking blood, I have to look away.
And Mark's favourite is?
Sport and news.
Sport and news, we're all different.
And the odd murder.
I am getting a little bit concerned how many murders Mark is watching. Oh, goodness me.
It doesn't assume your interest in watching Casualty or the BBC. It entertains, it puts on a show to earn your attention rather than assume it. And when we looked at the most entertaining ads in this data set, we saw that they drove more lasting brand growth. So the more entertaining you are, the more memory lift we drive, the more brand awareness lift, and the more brand image lift. So in short, entertainment drives brand really well on short form.
And that was Beth Marchant, keynote speakering at Youth Culture Uncovered earlier this week. And we will return to the topic of content creators and influencers with some discussions around that. What's the distinction between a content creator and an influencer? How can brands use them effectively? Lots of interesting stuff around that for a future edition. But that's your lot for today. If you enjoyed the podcast, please tap follow or leave a nice review. It's all recorded, edited and mixed at Tinpot Productions Studios. We're back again next Friday, wherever you pick your pods. Thanks for listening.